My husband's phone lit up with a text. Payment received. The boy won't remember anything about last night. I was reaching for my coffee mug when the notification sound made me glance at Graham's phone sitting face up on the kitchen counter. He'd left it there when he went upstairs to shower, something he never did. The message preview displayed clearly on the lock screen. No name attached, just a number I didn't recognize. My hand froze halfway to the mug. The words didn't make sense. I read them again, slower this time, waiting for context to materialize. Payment received. The boy won't remember anything about last night. My brain tried to construct innocent explanations. Maybe something about his nephew's birthday party? But Graham's brother lived in Oregon, and we hadn't seen them in 2 years. Maybe a client's son? Graham worked in commercial real estate, not exactly a field where you'd be dealing with children or payments that needed to be hidden. I picked up his phone, my thumb hovering over the screen. 13 years of marriage, and I'd never once looked through his phone without permission. We'd always had that trust, that boundary. But something about those words made my stomach turn cold. The shower was still running upstairs. I could hear the pipes humming through the ceiling. I pressed my thumb to the screen, and it unlocked immediately. He'd added my fingerprint to his phone years ago, back when we first got married, saying he wanted me to have access to everything. I'd thought it was romantic at the time. The message thread was short, just 3 exchanges over the past week. The first one from Graham. Need the usual arrangement. Friday night? Same price? Response from the unknown number. Confirmed. We'll have everything ready. Then Graham again. He's 9 now. Still works? Unknown number. Absolutely. Dosage adjusted for age and weight. No memory? No problem. My vision tunneled. The kitchen tiles seemed to tilt under my feet. I grabbed the counter for support, my other hand still clutching Graham's phone. 9 years old. Our son Elliot was 9 years old, but Elliot had been at his friend Devin's house for a sleepover last night. I'd dropped him off myself at 6, watched him run up the driveway with his overnight bag, his Spider-Man pajamas sticking out of the top. This had to be about someone else's child. It had to be. I scrolled up, searching for more context, but the conversation history had been deleted. Only these 3 messages remained from the past week. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. I took a screenshot, sent it to myself, then deleted the evidence of the forward from Graham's phone. The shower cut off upstairs. I had maybe 3 minutes before he came down. I opened his text messages, looking for anything else suspicious. Most were work-related, boring exchanges about property listings and client meetings. Then I saw a thread with someone named Jeremy Walsh from 2 weeks ago. Thanks for the recommendation. The photographer you suggested was perfect. Graham's response. Glad it worked out. He's very professional, very discreet. What photographer? Graham had never mentioned needing a photographer. I heard his footsteps on the stairs. I set his phone back exactly where it had been, screen down now, and picked up my coffee mug with both hands to hide the shaking. Graham walked into the kitchen, his hair still damp, wearing the navy suit I'd picked up from the dry cleaner yesterday. He smiled at me, the same smile I'd fallen in love with 15 years ago, and kissed my forehead. Morning, beautiful. Did Elliot text yet? My throat felt like it was closing. No, not yet. You know how he is at Devin's house. They probably stayed up all night playing video games. Graham poured himself coffee, his movements casual and relaxed. Kids, remember when we could stay up all night? He grabbed his phone, checking it quickly, then slipped it into his pocket. No reaction to the message, like it was perfectly normal, like it wasn't the most horrifying thing I'd ever read. I needed to know where Elliot was right now, needed to hear his voice. I pulled out my own phone and texted Devin's mom, Carolyn. Hope the boys weren't too much trouble last night. What time should I pick up Elliot? The 3 dots appeared immediately, then vanished, then appeared again. My heart was hammering against my ribs. Finally, her response. Pick up Elliot? He wasn't here last night. I thought you'd changed your mind about the sleepover. The coffee mug slipped from my fingers and shattered on the tile floor. Graham spun around, concern flooding his face. Babe, you okay? I couldn't breathe, couldn't form words. Elliot hadn't been at Devin's house. I'd watched him walk up to that door, but Carolyn was saying he was never there. I need to call Elliot, I managed to say, my voice coming out strangled. I dialed his number with shaking fingers. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. His cheerful voice. Hey, this is Elliot. Leave a message. I tried again. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. Where is he? I looked at Graham, really looked at him. His expression was perfectly calibrated concern, but something flickered behind his eyes. Something I'd never noticed before. What do you mean? He's at Devin's house. No. I held up my phone, showing him Carolyn's text. He's not. She says he was never there. Graham's face went pale. Actually pale, like the blood had drained right out. That's impossible. You dropped him off. I saw you leave. Call him, I said. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. Someone harder and colder. Call our son right now. Graham pulled out his phone, made a show of dialing. I watched his fingers, watched which contact he selected. It said Elliot Mobile, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was calling someone else entirely. He held the phone to his ear, waited, then lowered it. Voicemail. He probably left his phone in his bag. You know how he is. That was true. Elliot was constantly forgetting to charge his phone or leaving it buried in his backpack, But the timing, the message, the lie about where he was, none of it made sense unless what? Unless my husband of 13 years had done something to our son? That couldn't be real. That couldn't be happening. I'm driving over there, I said, already grabbing my keys from the hook by the door. Graham moved fast, putting himself between me and the door. Not threatening, just blocking. I'll go. You're clearly upset. I'll check Devin's house, and I'm sure there's been some mix-up. Get out of my way. I'd never used that tone with him before. Never had reason to. We didn't fight like this. We didn't fight at all, really. We were the couple everyone envied, the ones who still held hands at parties, who finished each other's sentences. His jaw tightened. For just a second, I saw something in his face I didn't recognize. Then it was gone, replaced by that concerned husband expression. Naomi, you're scaring me. What's going on? That text, I said. The one you just got. About payment. About a boy not remembering. His hand moved to his pocket, protective of his phone. What text? I don't know what you're talking about. I saw it, Graham. It was on your lock screen. A pause that lasted too long. Then he laughed, but it sounded wrong. Hollow. Oh, that's about a client's kid. They're buying a house, wanted to make sure their son didn't remember seeing the property before the surprise reveal. It's a whole thing. The lie was so smooth, so practiced. How many times had he lied to me with that same casual tone? How many times had I believed him? Move, I said again. This time I shoved past him, my shoulder hitting his chest. He let me go. I was halfway to my car when he called out from the doorway. Naomi, please. You're not thinking clearly. I didn't respond, just got in the car and reversed out of the driveway too fast, leaving rubber marks on the concrete. My phone rang immediately. Graham. I declined the call. It rang again. Declined. Again. I turned it off completely. Devin's house was 7 minutes away. I made it in 4, running 2 stop signs and pushing 40 in a residential zone. Carolyn was already standing on her front porch when I screeched to a stop, like she'd been waiting. She came down to meet me as I practically fell out of the car. What's happening? Your text scared me. When did Elliot text you? I asked. When did he cancel? Carolyn's confusion was genuine. I'd known her for 5 years. Knew her tells. She wasn't lying. He didn't text me. You did. Yesterday afternoon around 2. You said something came up and Elliot couldn't make it. I pulled out my phone, turned it back on with shaking hands, found my text thread with Carolyn. There it was, sent yesterday at 2:14 p.m. So sorry, something came up. We'll have to reschedule Elliot's sleepover. Thanks for understanding. I hadn't sent that. I'd been in a work meeting until 3 yesterday. I showed Carolyn my phone. I didn't send this. She looked from the screen to my face, and I watched her process what that meant. Graham has access to your phone, she said slowly. You told me once he set up all your cloud backups. He did. He'd set up everything when I got my new phone last year. Said it would be easier if our devices were all synced. I could text from my laptop, my iPad, and he could too if needed. He'd sent that text from his computer, pretending to be me. I need to find Elliot. My voice was breaking now. Right now. I need to know where my son is. Carolyn grabbed my arm. Okay. Let's think about this logically. Where would Graham have taken him if not here? I tried to think through the panic. Graham's office? No. Too public. His brother's place? Too far away. His parents were dead. Had been for years. He didn't have close friends. Never really needed them because he had me and Elliot. The cabin, I said suddenly. He has that cabin he inherited from his uncle, up in Grayson County. That's 2 hours away, Carolyn said. Call the police, right now. Show them that text message. And tell them what? That my husband got a suspicious text and my son isn't where I thought he was? Elliot could have gone anywhere. Maybe Graham took him on a surprise trip. Maybe, but I didn't believe that. Neither did Carolyn. I could see it in her face. You don't actually think that, she said softly. You think something terrible has happened. I did. God help me, I did. Because that text message wasn't about a house showing or a surprise party. Payment received. The boy won't remember anything. That was about something dark, something planned, something that required drugging a child so he couldn't remember. I called Graham back. He answered on the first ring, his voice tight with concern. Naomi, where are you? Where's Elliot? I told you he's at Devin's house. Or he should be. Did you find him? You texted Carolyn yesterday and canceled. From my phone. Where is our son, Graham? Silence on the other end. I could hear him breathing. Could almost hear him calculating. I don't know what you're talking about. The cabin. Did you take him to the cabin? Another pause. Why would I take him to the cabin? Not a denial. A question. That's when I knew with absolute certainty that Elliot was there. 2 hours north. With a father who had drugged him for some purpose I couldn't even let myself imagine. I'm calling the police, I said, and hung up. I dialed 911 with Carolyn watching, her hand pressed to her mouth. The dispatcher's voice was calm and professional. I tried to match it, tried not to sound hysterical. My son is missing. I believe my husband took him somewhere and drugged him. I have text message evidence. The dispatcher took my information, asked careful questions. What was I wearing when I last saw Elliot? What does he look like? Did Graham have a history of violence? I answered everything, feeling detached from my own voice. No history of violence. Model father. coached Elliot's soccer team, volunteered at school fundraisers. Everyone loved Graham. Everyone thought we were perfect. Ma'am, I'm dispatching an officer to your current location. Stay where you are. Don't confront your husband alone. But 2 hours. Every second Elliot was there was a second I'd never get back. Never forgive myself for. I'm going to the cabin, I told Carolyn. If the police get here before I leave, tell them where I went. Give them the address. I rattled off the location from memory. Graham had taken me there twice, early in our marriage before Elliot was born. Remote, surrounded by woods, no neighbors for miles. The perfect place to do something terrible without anyone hearing. Carolyn grabbed my shoulders. Naomi, wait for the police. If Graham really did something, if he's dangerous, that's my son. I pulled away from her. Every minute I wait is a minute Elliot is with someone who drugged him. I can't. I just can't. I got back in my car. Carolyn was already on her phone as I pulled away, probably calling the police herself, giving them more details. My own phone rang. Graham again. I answered this time, putting it on speaker as I drove. Naomi, I need you to come home. We can talk about this. I'm coming to the cabin. His sharp intake of breath told me everything. There's nothing at the cabin. I haven't been there in months. Then you won't mind if I check? Naomi, please. You're confused. You're imagining things that aren't real. I'd never heard that tone from him before. Patronizing. Like I was a child who needed to be managed. The text, Graham. About payment. About a boy not remembering. What did you do to Elliot? I love Elliot. You know that. I would never hurt him. But he didn't deny doing something. Didn't deny taking him. Didn't deny the payment. Who sent that text? Who did you pay? He hung up. I tried calling back, but it went straight to voicemail. He'd turned off his phone. My hands were white-knuckled on the steering wheel. The highway stretched ahead, gray and endless. 2 hours to the cabin. I pressed the accelerator harder, pushing 70, then 80. My phone rang again. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. Mrs. Ashford? A man's voice, unfamiliar. This is Detective Luis Ramirez with the County Sheriff's Department. We received a call about a possible child endangerment situation. My husband has my son, I said, words tumbling out too fast. He drugged him. There was a text message about payment and memory loss. I think he took him to a cabin in Grayson County. Ma'am, I need you to pull over. Where are you right now? I'm on Highway 49 heading north. I can't pull over. I can't waste time. Elliot is 9 years old, and I don't know what's happening to him. Mrs. Ashford, I understand you're frightened, but we have officers heading to the cabin location. The best thing you can do is let us handle this. You don't understand. I was crying now, barely able to see the road through the tears. Something is happening to him right now, right this second. And I'm supposed to just wait? Just trust that you'll get there in time? How far are you from the cabin? I checked the GPS. 70 minutes, maybe less if I keep speeding. I heard voices in the background, someone relaying information. Then Detective Ramirez came back on. We have units closer than that. They'll reach the cabin in approximately 40 minutes. Mrs. Ashford, has your husband ever shown signs of harming your son before this? Had he? I thought back over 9 years of Elliot's life, searching for red flags I'd missed. Graham had always been a devoted father, maybe a little strict about bedtime, particular about Elliot's diet, his screen time, his friend choices. But that was normal parenting, wasn't it? Except there was that time last year when Elliot came home from a special dad day and couldn't remember where they'd gone. He'd been foggy, confused, said his head hurt. Graham said they'd gone to a museum and Elliot must have been tired. I'd accepted that explanation. What if I'd been accepting explanations for things that were never innocent? Mrs. Ashford? Detective Ramirez's voice pulled me back. I asked if there were prior incidents. Maybe. I don't know. I'm remembering things differently now. What things? Times when Elliot seemed confused or couldn't remember. Graham always had explanations. I trusted him. I'd trusted him completely. Absolutely. The way you trust someone you've built a life with, who knows your coffee order and your mother's birthday and which side of the bed you prefer. The way you trust someone who has never given you a single concrete reason to doubt them. I'm going to stay on the line with you, Detective Ramirez said. But I need you to promise me you won't enter that cabin until officers arrive. If your husband is dangerous, you could be putting yourself and your son at greater risk. He won't hurt me. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure. I didn't know who Graham was anymore. Didn't know what he was capable of. The man I'd married wouldn't drug his own child. Wouldn't arrange secret payments. Wouldn't lie about his son's location. But that man wasn't real, was he? That man was a construction. A mask. I'd been living with a stranger for 13 years. Mrs. Ashford, I need that promise. Wait for the officers. I didn't respond. I couldn't promise that. If I got there and Elliot was inside, nothing would stop me from going in. My phone buzzed with another call. I glanced at the screen. It was a number I recognized from Elliot's school. Detective, I have another call. It might be about Elliot. Take it. I'll hold. I switched over. Hello? Mrs. Ashford, this is Principal Kenneth Larson. I'm calling because we had an incident this morning that concerns Elliot. This morning? But Elliot was supposedly at a sleepover. He shouldn't have been anywhere near school. What incident? Elliot arrived at school at 7:30, before most staff. He was confused, disoriented. The nurse examined him and found what appears to be an injection site on his upper arm. We've been trying to reach you for the past hour. My vision swam. I swerved slightly, caught myself. He's at school? Right now? Yes, he's in the nurse's office. Mrs. Ashford, he says he doesn't remember anything after dinner last night. He woke up in his bed this morning and came to school like normal, but he has no memory of the evening. Given the injection site and his symptoms, we've called an ambulance. I need you to come to the school immediately. Is he okay? Is he hurt? Physically, he appears unharmed, but he's very frightened and confused. The paramedics are with him now. I made an illegal U-turn across the highway median, tires screaming. Cars honked. I didn't care. I'm 20 minutes away. Don't let him leave with anyone. Not Graham, not anyone. Mr. Ashford isn't here. We haven't been able to reach him either. I switched back to Detective Ramirez, explained what the principal had said. Elliot's at school. He has an injection site on his arm. He doesn't remember last night. That changes things, Ramirez said grimly. Units are still proceeding to the cabin to locate your husband, but I'm redirecting another unit to the school. Mrs. Ashford, when you get there, don't leave. We'll need to take your statement and examine your son's phone records and device. 20 minutes later, I ran through the school's main entrance. The receptionist tried to stop me, but Principal Larson appeared and waved me through. Elliot was in the nurse's office, sitting on the examination table with a blanket around his shoulders despite the warm morning. He looked so small, so young. When he saw me, his face crumpled. Mom, something's wrong with me. I can't remember. I wrapped him in my arms, holding him so tight I probably hurt him. He smelled like his strawberry shampoo and something chemical I couldn't place. Over his shoulder, I saw the paramedic showing Principal Larson something on his tablet. The nurse had documented the injection site with photos. A small red mark on Elliot's upper arm, right below the sleeve of his t-shirt. Sweetheart, what's the last thing you remember from yesterday? I kept my voice steady even though everything inside me was screaming. We had tacos for dinner. You let me have extra sour cream. Then Dad said we should watch a movie, and I was picking which one. He pulled back, looking at me with frightened eyes. Then I woke up this morning in my bed. But I don't remember the movie. I don't remember going to sleep. Why can't I remember, Mom? Do you remember Dad doing anything? Giving you medicine or a shot? Elliot shook his head. I don't remember anything. It's just gone. Did I hit my head? The nurse said I have a mark on my arm. The paramedic approached carefully. Mrs. Ashford, we'd like to transport Elliot to the hospital for a full examination. The injection site is consistent with an intramuscular injection, and given his memory loss, we need to determine what substance was administered. Do whatever you need to do. I kept one arm around Elliot. I'm coming with you. Mom, where's Dad? Elliot asked. Why isn't he here? I didn't know how to answer that. Didn't know what to tell him that wouldn't break him. Dad's not available right now, but I'm here. I'm not leaving. Detective Ramirez arrived at the hospital 40 minutes after we did. Elliot was in the emergency room, giving blood samples and undergoing a full physical examination. I was in the waiting area, trying to hold myself together. Mrs. Ashford. Detective Ramirez was in his late 40s, with gray at his temples and eyes that had seen too much. Officers searched the cabin. Your husband wasn't there, but we found evidence he'd been there recently. Empty syringe packages, sedative medication, and camera equipment. Camera equipment. The photographer that Jeremy Walsh had thanked Graham for recommending. Very professional, very discreet. I was going to be sick. I made it to the bathroom just in time, retching into the toilet until there was nothing left. When I came out, Detective Ramirez handed me a bottle of water. I need you to walk me through everything, from the beginning, every detail you can remember. We sat in a private consultation room. I told him about the text message, the screenshots I'd taken, showed him the texts with Carolyn, the canceled sleepover, mentioned the times Elliot had been confused or unable to remember, the special dad days that I'd never questioned. How often did these memory lapses occur? Ramirez asked. Maybe once every few months? I thought Elliot was just tired. He's a kid. Kids space out sometimes. Did your husband have access to medications? Does he work in healthcare? No, he's in commercial real estate. But his uncle was a doctor before he died. That's whose cabin it is. Was. Ramirez made notes. The medications we found at the cabin are controlled substances, typically used in medical settings for sedation. Your husband would have needed a source for these drugs. Jeremy Walsh, I said suddenly. Graham texted someone named Jeremy Walsh about a photographer. What if Walsh is connected to this somehow? We'll look into it. Ramirez paused. Mrs. Ashford, I need to prepare you for what we might find. The camera equipment, the sedatives, the careful planning. This suggests your husband may have been documenting these incidents, recording them. I understood what he wasn't saying. Child exploitation, sexual abuse. My husband, Elliot's father, had been drugging our son and doing something terrible enough that he needed Elliot unconscious and unable to remember. I want to see Elliot's medical records, I said. Every appointment, every checkup. I want to know if there were signs I missed. We'll obtain those records. But Mrs. Ashford, you need to understand something. People who do this are often master manipulators. They're skilled at hiding their true nature, even from those closest to them. Especially from those closest to them. How long? My voice was barely a whisper. How long do you think this was happening? That's what we need to determine. But based on the evidence and your son's memory gaps, possibly months, maybe longer. A nurse came in, asked to speak with me privately. I followed her to Elliot's room. He was lying in the hospital bed, an IV in his arm, looking exhausted. The initial blood work came back, the nurse said quietly. He has trace amounts of midazolam in his system. It's a sedative commonly used in medical procedures. Given the levels, he was likely injected within the past 12 to 18 hours. I sat on the edge of Elliot's bed, brushing his hair back from his forehead. How are you feeling, sweetheart? Tired? The doctor said I was drugged. Mom, why would someone drug me? Because your father is a monster. Because I failed to protect you. Because evil doesn't always look like evil from the outside. I don't know, baby. But you're safe now. I promise you're safe. But was he? Graham was still out there somewhere, his phone turned off, his location unknown. What if he tried to take Elliot? What if he came to the hospital? Detective Ramirez is right outside, I said, more to reassure myself than Elliot. No one's going to hurt you. My phone rang. Unknown number again. I stepped into the hallway to answer. Mrs. Ashford, this is Denise Chen from Child Protective Services. I've been assigned to Elliot's case. I need to conduct an interview with both you and Elliot, and I'll need to inspect your home. Whatever you need. I also need to inform you that we're opening an investigation into Mr. Ashford's activities. Given the nature of the allegations and evidence, Elliot cannot return home until we've completed a thorough examination of the premises. He can't go home. Panic flared. Where were we supposed to go? We need to ensure the environment is safe and that there's no additional evidence that needs to be collected. Do you have somewhere else you can stay? Family or friends? I'll figure it out. I'd call my sister in Vermont. We weren't close, but she'd take us in. She had to. Mrs. Ashford, I need you to understand the seriousness of this situation. Based on what Detective Ramirez has shared with me, there's reason to believe your son may have been sexually abused. The medical examination will be thorough and potentially traumatic for Elliot. He'll need extensive support. The words hit like physical blows. Sexually abused? My 9-year-old son. By his own father. I'll be there for him. Whatever he needs. We'll also need to examine your role in this. Whether you knew or should have known what was happening. I didn't know. I swear to God I didn't know. But should I have known? Should I have questioned more? Pushed harder when Elliot seemed confused? What kind of mother doesn't notice her child is being abused? Denise Chen arrived an hour later, a slim woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a manner that was both compassionate and professional. She interviewed Elliot first, with me present, asking gentle questions about his relationship with Graham, about their alone time together, about anything that made him uncomfortable. Elliot couldn't remember specifics. The drugs had done their job, but he mentioned feeling afraid sometimes after dad time, not knowing why, feeling sore in places he couldn't explain. I thought I was imagining it, Elliot said, his voice small. Dad said I was growing, that growing pains were normal. My heart was breaking into pieces so small they'd never fit back together. Chen's expression remained neutral, but I saw her jaw tighten. After Elliot's interview, Chen spoke with me alone in a different consultation room. Mrs. Ashford, I need you to be completely honest with me. Did you ever suspect your husband was abusing Elliot? No, never. Graham was a good father, or I thought he was. He was involved, attentive. He coached Elliot's soccer team. Everyone loved him. Sometimes the people who seem most trustworthy are the ones hiding the darkest secrets, Chen said. They build a reputation specifically to avoid suspicion. I feel like I failed him. I was right there, living in the same house, and I didn't protect my own son. Perpetrators are skilled at manipulation and deception. They create situations where abuse can occur without detection. This wasn't your failure. This was your husband's choice. But it felt like my failure. Every memory of Elliot and Graham together was now tainted, poisoned. Soccer practices, camping trips, bedtime stories, all potentially cover for something horrific. My phone buzzed. Text from a number I didn't recognize. You've destroyed everything. I was helping him. He needed me. You don't understand what we had. I showed Chen and Ramirez immediately. Ramirez's expression darkened. That's likely from your husband. He's using a burner phone or someone else's device. Don't respond. Another text. Elliot won't remember because I protected him from remembering. You're the one hurting him now by making him face this. He's trying to justify it, Chen said. Classic abuser behavior. Reframing the abuse as care or protection. Another text. I love him more than you ever could. I've been showing him a kind of love you can't comprehend. I couldn't read anymore. I handed my phone to Ramirez. Make it stop. Please make it stop. We're tracing the number now. Keep your phone on. If he continues texting, it helps us locate him. Elliot was released from the hospital that evening with instructions for follow-up care and trauma counseling. I'd arranged to stay with Carolyn temporarily while CPS inspected our house. Elliot was quiet on the drive, staring out the window. Is Dad coming back? He finally asked. I'd been dreading this question. I don't know, sweetheart, but even if he does, he won't be living with us anymore. Because of what he did to me? The thing I can't remember? I pulled into Carolyn's driveway and turned to face him. Elliot, your father did something very wrong. Something that hurt you. It's not your fault. None of this is your fault. But I don't even remember it. How can something hurt me if I don't remember? Your body remembers. Your mind knows something bad happened even if you can't picture it exactly. And that's okay. We're going to get you help, and you're going to heal. Tears were streaming down his face. I thought Dad loved me. I know, baby. I know. I held him while he cried, his small body shaking with sobs. Carolyn met us at the door, took one look at Elliot, and immediately went into caretaker mode. She'd set up her guest room with fresh sheets and put some of her son's old toys out. She made hot chocolate and grilled cheese, simple comfort food. Elliot ate mechanically, not really tasting it. That night, I lay in the other guest bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. My phone buzzed repeatedly. More texts from Graham's burner number. I'd muted them, but I could see the notifications piling up. Detective Ramirez called at midnight. We've located your husband's vehicle at a shopping center parking lot about 60 miles from your location. The car was abandoned. We're reviewing security footage now. He could be anywhere. We've issued an alert. His photo has been distributed to all regional law enforcement. We'll find him. But Graham was smart, meticulous. He'd planned this abuse for months, maybe years. He'd know how to disappear. 2 days passed. Elliot barely spoke. He'd wake up screaming from nightmares he couldn't remember upon waking. The trauma counselor came to Carolyn's house for initial sessions, gentle conversations about feelings and safety. CPS completed their home inspection. They'd found a locked file cabinet in Graham's office that I'd never had a key to. When forced open, it contained external hard drives, memory cards, and handwritten logs, dates and times, corresponding to Elliot's memory gaps. Detective Ramirez showed me the log in a victim services office, his expression grim. Mrs. Ashford, the content on these drives is evidence in a criminal case. I can't show you details, but I need to confirm that the child in the footage is Elliot. I identified him from a single still image, clothed and unconscious on an unfamiliar bed. That was enough. I vomited in the office bathroom, then came back and signed the necessary paperwork. How many times? I asked. According to the log and corresponding files, 47 incidents over the past 18 months. 47 times. Once or twice a month, Graham had drugged our son, assaulted him, and documented it. The photographers Jeremy Walsh had recommended. Very professional. Very discreet. Walsh was part of it? I asked. Jeremy Walsh is being questioned now. We believe he was part of a larger network. Your husband wasn't acting alone. A network. Other children, other families. The scope was overwhelming. The FBI is involved now, Ramirez continued. This goes beyond state lines. We've identified multiple individuals in the footage besides your husband. This is part of a larger investigation into organized child exploitation. I couldn't process it. My brain kept shutting down, refusing to accept the magnitude of what Graham had done. Elliot started school again the following week, at a different school in a different district. Fresh start. New friends who didn't know his story. But the nightmares continued. He'd wake up crying, saying he felt something bad had happened but couldn't remember what. The therapist said recovered memories might emerge over time, or they might not. The brain sometimes protected itself by keeping traumatic memories locked away. Graham's mother called me 3 weeks after everything came out. I hadn't heard from her since Graham's father died 6 years ago. They'd never been close to Elliot. You're lying about my son, she said without preamble. Graham would never hurt a child. You've fabricated this entire thing. The police have evidence. Video evidence. Doctored. You're trying to destroy him because you want a divorce. I know how women like you operate. I hung up. She called back immediately. I blocked her number. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks out, but Graham still hadn't been found. He'd disappeared completely, leaving no digital trail, no credit card usage, nothing. He had this planned, Ramirez said. He likely had a go bag prepared, fake identification, cash reserves. This level of premeditation is consistent with organized offenders. You think he knew I'd find out eventually? I think he had contingency plans. People like your husband operate with multiple layers of protection and exit strategies. More victims came forward after the news coverage. 4 other boys, all between ages 8 and 11, all with similar stories of memory gaps and confused feelings after time with Graham. He'd been their soccer coach, their tutor, their mentor, parents who'd trusted him to spend time alone with their sons. The network extended to 12 states. 23 perpetrators identified so far, including Jeremy Walsh, who turned out to be Graham's college roommate. They'd been doing this together for over a decade, building a sophisticated operation with encrypted communication and rotating roles. The FBI found email correspondence between Graham and Walsh going back 15 years, discussing their preferences and methods, making me sick to read the clinical way they discussed abusing children. Elliot's 12th birthday came and went. We had a small party, just him and 3 new friends. He smiled more now, the nightmares less frequent. Therapy was helping. He'd started talking about the fear he'd felt around Graham toward the end, how he'd tried to avoid alone time with his father but didn't know why. I thought I was being a bad son, he told his therapist in a session I observed. I thought something was wrong with me for not wanting to spend time with Dad. Your instincts were trying to protect you, the therapist said. Even though your conscious mind didn't remember, your body knew it wasn't safe. That seemed to help him, knowing that some part of him had been fighting back, even unconsciously. I filed for divorce 6 months after Graham's disappearance. It was processed quickly given the circumstances. The state seized all our assets as proceeds of crime since Graham had spent marital funds on his abuse network. The house, the cars, our savings, everything gone. Elliot and I moved into a small apartment across town, started over with donated furniture and Goodwill clothes. It was better this way. No remnants of our old life. My sister helped financially, despite our strained relationship. Family takes care of family, she said simply. I got a job at a nonprofit helping other families navigate trauma and legal systems, used my experience to help others, found purpose in the wreckage. Elliot thrived in ways he never had before, joined the art club, made friends easily, laughed more. The shadow that had always hung over him lifted. I hadn't recognized it as a shadow when we lived with Graham, but its absence was striking. He was lighter now, freer. Do you think about Dad? He asked me one evening while we were making dinner together. Sometimes. Do you? I try not to. Sometimes I remember good things, like when we'd play video games. But then I remember it wasn't real. None of it was real. The love you felt was real, I said carefully. Your feelings were real. What wasn't real was who you thought he was. I feel stupid for not knowing. Elliot, you were a child. You're still a child. You're not supposed to have to protect yourself from your own parents. That's our job. And I failed at mine. You didn't know either. No. But I should have. I should have questioned more. Investigated when things seemed off. We'd had this conversation before in therapy. Would probably have it many times more. The guilt wasn't something that disappeared. It became something you learned to carry. 14 months after Graham disappeared, I got a call from Detective Ramirez. We found him. Or rather, international authorities did. He was in the Philippines living under an assumed identity. The embassy is extraditing him back to the United States. He'll face trial. I sat down heavily. After all this time, I'd started to believe he'd never be found. What happens now? The trial will proceed. Your son will need to testify, or at minimum, his medical records and therapy notes will be entered as evidence. The video evidence is substantial. The prosecution is confident. When? Realistically, 6 months to a year before it goes to trial. Federal cases move slowly. I told Elliot that night. He took the news quietly, nodding. Will I have to see him? Possibly. We can arrange it so you don't have to be in the same room. You can testify via video link. I want to see him. That surprised me. You do? I want to look at him and tell him what he did to me. Even if I don't remember all of it, I remember how I felt. I want him to know he didn't win. Pride swelled in my chest. This brave, resilient child who'd been through hell and come out fighting. If that's what you want, we'll make it happen. The trial began in early September, nearly 2 years after that text message had destroyed our lives. The prosecution had built an overwhelming case. Video evidence, testimony from other victims, digital forensics showing the extent of the network. Graham sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, thinner than I remembered, his hair graying. He didn't look at me or Elliot. The prosecution presented their case methodically. Medical experts testified about the effects of the sedatives used. Computer forensic specialists walked through the evidence chain. Other victims testified about their experiences, their lost time, their trauma. Elliot took the stand on day 4. I watched from the gallery as he swore to tell the truth. He looked small in the witness box, but his voice was steady. The man at that table drugged me at least 47 times, Elliot said, pointing at Graham. He hurt me in ways I can't fully remember, but my body remembers. My nightmares remember. The fear I still feel remembers. The prosecutor walked him through his testimony carefully, avoiding graphic details but establishing the pattern of abuse. Graham's attorney tried to cross-examine, suggesting Elliot's memories were implanted by therapy, that he'd been coached. Elliot didn't waver. I know what happened to me. I know I wasn't safe in my own home. I know my father chose to hurt me. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. 47 counts of child sexual abuse, conspiracy to produce child exploitation material, distribution of child exploitation material, and racketeering. Federal charges carrying mandatory minimums that added up to life imprisonment. Graham showed no emotion when the verdict was read, just stared straight ahead like none of it mattered. The sentencing hearing came 2 months later. The judge allowed victim impact statements. I spoke first. Graham Ashford stole my son's childhood. He stole my ability to trust my own judgment. He turned our home into a crime scene and our family into a cautionary tale. But he didn't break us. Elliot is stronger than Graham ever was, and we've built a new life from the ashes of the one Graham burned down. Elliot spoke next, reading from a prepared statement. I'm 12 now. In 3 years, I'll be the age my father was when he started planning to abuse me. I can't imagine hurting a child. I can't imagine drugging someone who trusts you. I can't imagine being that broken inside. My father is sick, but that doesn't excuse what he did. Nothing excuses it. I hope he spends the rest of his life thinking about all the children he hurt, because we think about it every day. The judge sentenced Graham to consecutive terms totaling 185 years in federal prison without possibility of parole. Mr. Ashford, you betrayed the most fundamental trust that exists, the judge said. You took innocence and destroyed it systematically, methodically. You caused harm that will ripple through generations. This court finds no mitigating factors, no cause for mercy. Graham was led away in chains. I didn't feel triumphant, didn't feel closure. felt empty and exhausted. Elliot took my hand as we left the courthouse. Is it over now? The legal part is. The healing part continues. We went home to our small apartment, made dinner together, watched a movie, went through our evening routine. Normal life, except nothing would ever be normal again. But we were safe. Elliot was safe. That was all that mattered. 3 years later, Elliot is 15, thriving in high school, talking about college and art school. The nightmares have mostly stopped. He has a girlfriend who makes him laugh. He's published drawings in the school literary magazine, raw and beautiful depictions of pain transforming into strength. We don't talk about Graham often. He exists as a cautionary tale, a monster safely locked away. Elliot knows his story helped convict 22 other perpetrators in the network. 63 children were identified and removed from abusive situations because of Elliot's courage. The therapist says that knowledge helps, turns trauma into purpose. I still have moments of paralyzing guilt, wondering what I missed, how I could have been so blind. But I've learned to forgive myself incrementally, day by day, recognizing I was also a victim of Graham's deception. The person I thought I married never existed. I mourn that loss while being grateful for the truth. Sometimes Elliot asks about that night, the text message that unraveled everything. What if you hadn't seen it? What if his phone had been face down? I don't answer because I can't bear to think about that alternative timeline. Instead, I hold him close and whisper the same thing I've been saying for years. You're safe now. You're loved. And you're going to be okay. And against all odds, it seems like he might be. Thanks for watching till the end. Make sure to subscribe and like to not miss the next story.